So welcome everyone. We've had a lot of people go into the chat box and answering that simple question: what is the purpose of an elevator speech? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What is an elevator speech? How to do a good one? And we're going to actually sort of be working through some of them. Several of you have actually submitted them, and I'd love to talk to some of you about yours. Kim Brufy, hey Kim, good to see you. To get attention and pique curiosity, Carl Hudson said, in a large organization, letting folks I don't know or I don't work with know what I'm doing. That's an interesting point, because Monique made the same point, is that even if you're not in sales, it's important to have a good elevator speech, because it lets other people know the value that you bring to the organization. So all of these are really, really good points. And so as we talk today about the elevator, by the way, my name is Joey Asher. I am president of SpeechWorks. We've been an organization that's been around for 35 years. I've been running the company for about 20 years. I'm running solo today. The fellow who's usually on the call with me today is not able to make it. JD Clockadale is not able to make it today, but it's just me. You just got just me. So I'm going to be doing my best to. Bridget just said that was my elevator pitch. How did I do, by the way, Bridget? Did I do okay there?
It was a little short, Joey, a little short, but I got it.
It was a little short. Okay. Well, all right. Well, feedback is a gift. Thank you for that. Thank you for your for your input. All right. So yeah. So that's the idea. Is that's what we're going to be doing today. There's three main things we're going to talk about. Number one, I just want to talk about what is an actual elevator pitch. What do we actually mean by an elevator pitch? Number two, how do we actually build it out? And then thirdly, how do we actually deliver it? And I actually would love, I have an opinion as to what an elevator pitch is. A lot of you have already said that. I think of it as a verbal calling card that shows value. That to me is sort of a way of defining it. It's a verbal calling card that shows value. And so I think this works in both of the circumstances that we've been talking about. If we're talking about a circumstance where you're a salesperson and you're trying to let the world see what value you provide, it can show why somebody might want to do business with you. But in an internal situation, it does the same thing. It's a verbal calling card that shows value. And I'd like to use a couple of these examples. And actually, Cal, well, first of all, is Zoe on? I don't know if Zoe is on the call. Zoe sent me a couple of really good ones that I really enjoyed. I don't know if Zoe is here. I don't see her. So maybe she wasn't able to make it. But I saw Cal is here. Cal, would you be willing to be a non-voluntary volunteer? Will you unmute? Go ahead and unmute. Cal, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Cal, just tell everybody you're with Turner. Is that right? Turner Construction. Oh, you're on mute.
Test.
Go ahead.
Does it work?
Yeah, you good.
Hey, Blake, can you hold on? How about now? Is there an echo?
A little bit of an echo, yeah. All right, well.
Testing.
Yeah, that's good. You there, Cal?
All right, I can hear you. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so no, I was just asking you to be a non-volunteer, to be voluntold, to be willing to sort of jump into the breach here.
Absolutely, thank you. Sure.
Yeah, so Cal submitted, when we asked some of you may have gotten an email from us asking you to submit your elevator speech to us. And the thing that I really liked what Cal did is he actually gave me three. He actually gave me three separate pitches. And Cal, my question for you is, well, why do you have three? I think it's a good idea, but what's the rationale behind having three?
I was trying to imagine the conversation of how the person would gauge the initial question. If it was more of a personal, what do you do, like specifically, or who do you work for and what do they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think this raises a really good point, which is that what an elevator speech is kind of depends on the context, doesn't it? It really depends on what's the circumstance and why you're doing. So I think it's always a good idea to have multiple elevator speeches. Cal, is it all right if I read through some of yours here?
Sure, just be gentle, please.
I'll be nice to you. By the way, Cal is with Turner Construction. Where are you exactly, Cal? Are you in Atlanta or where are you?
I'm in Memphis, Tennessee.
In Memphis. And how long, and what exactly is your role at Turner?
I work as a project engineer, and my two project managers are actually here too in the same room, Blake Tyler and Armando Longoria for Turner.
You guys are all there together. Okay, so welcome Turner from Memphis. All right, the land of, that's where Elvis was from, right?
Yes, sir, the king.
All right, very good. All right, so let me go through Cal's because they're good. Okay, the very first one I actually love. Somebody says, "What do you do?" He says, "I build things." That was the first words out of his mouth. I tell you what I love about that is just how nice and simple it is. And then he says, specifically, I build any type of commercial building. I work for Turner Construction. And this is a nice, clean, simple. It's like there's no doubt what Cal does immediately. And I do think that this is one of the challenges that a lot of these elevator pitches have is it's not always clear right from the beginning what exactly you do. Sometimes people have titles that are kind of opaque and they don't really necessarily mean anything to what the person they don't really mean anything to if you were just to say, for example, Cal, you could say, well, I'm a project engineer, right? You could say that. Have you ever said that, by the way? I'm just curious.
Absolutely.
And so what is the reaction when people say that?
It depends what industry they're in, but normally I would have to further explain it.
Yeah, so if they're in the construction world, they would know what it means. But a lot of folks have no idea what that means. So I love the nice, simple one of, I build things. The next one is we're a GC, which is a general contractor, basically manage the cost, schedule, and construction of a project. Now, when would you use that one, Cal?
Probably if I was talking more to an owner's rep, somebody that we would probably be doing a partnership with.
Right. Yeah. So again, that one is more of a sales pitch, more of a true sales pitch, right? Where you want the owner to, want somebody to know that, hey, they might be able to hire you to build something, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then the last one you have is in terms of my own role, I'm an engineer assigned to a project. See, that one's actually much better than just a project engineer. An engineer assigned to a project, I don't know, seems clearer to me than project engineer. Project engineer sounds like a job title to me. Whereas an engineer assigned to a project, and then there I make sure I'm executing the plan, our superintendent executing our plan, basically. So again, these are actually really, really good. So Cal, first of all, I just want to thank you for submitting these. I thought they're really, really good. I think that the key takeaway here, though, is that your elevator speech, I think, is contextual. How and the circumstance in which it was offered depends. You might not want to necessarily. You might not be trying to give people, a history of your work or want people to necessarily know about your work. Maybe you just want to. Maybe you're at a cocktail party and you want to just have an interesting conversation. So somebody says, what do you do? Rather than telling people that you give presentation, you might say, I love to go fishing or something like that. It could be just as simple as that, because you may not necessarily want to talk about your work. I think it's somewhat contextual where all you're trying to do is to start a conversation. By the way, I should emphasize as we go through, go to the chat box, tell me, raise questions, argue with me, tell me you completely disagree. Sean just said, I like having a pitch that doesn't rely on people knowing your profession or industry. Well, thank you, Sean, for that, because I think you're teeing me up to the next piece, which is how do we actually create an elevator speech? How do we actually create one? Now, those of you who have been on these calls know that we don't use PowerPoint very often, but I actually have a PowerPoint, or at least one slide, and I'm going to actually share my screen here so that you can actually see the slide. Let's see here. Here is the slide, and the question is how do we actually create an elevator pitch? And I think that this is a basic structure. You don't have to do it exactly this way. You can go on the internet and look up a million different ways to do it. I think this is a nice simple approach, and it goes something like this. What I do is, what I'm excited about is, and let me give you an example. To me, these are the three things that this sort of comprise an elevator speech. The most important one probably being the first one. I love the comment that Sean just made. Hold on a second. I don't seem to be able to. There we go. Sean says, I like having an elevator speech that doesn't rely on people knowing your profession or industry. Sean, could you unmute? Tell me why that is important to you.
I realized it when Cal said it, that a lot of times we have to explain our profession. I'm in the software design world, and having to explain what I do takes a lot more time than an elevator ride. So being able to explain it to my parents, my kids, or someone else, having that at your hand, I think would be great.
Sean, what do you do?
I should have prepared.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I'm a design manager with Home Depot. We support the enterprise apps inside of Home Depot. So basically the tools that all the associates use, and we help make it better.
So in other words, all the apps that you use and all the technology to run the stores effectively, you guys design that stuff. Is that right?
Correct. We design it for the associates.
Right. In other words, so the associates, they have all sorts of, anybody who's been to a Home Depot store, and I'm assuming that that's basically everybody on this call, knows that a lot of them carry around some tools to use to actually, run the store and find stuff, and you guys help them create that. You create that stuff for them. Is that right?
Correct. We design that software, that whether it's an HR system, supply chain, anything.
All right. So let's just for fun. Are you willing to keep going here? You want to give it a try? I know that you didn't volunteer for this, but let's give it a shot here, Sean. The reason I'm picking on you is because I love the Home Depot. By the way, I'm sitting directly across the street from a Home Depot. Our office is right across the street from the Perimeter Home Depot. So that's my personal Home Depot. Let's see, Sean. So let's start with what I do is. Give it a shot. Finish that sentence.
What I do is I manage software designers at Home Depot.
That's really, really good. That's really, really good. And then in your case, instead of going to what I'm really excited about, I might jump to the third line and just say, so as an example, you might say, as an example, we design the software that helps the associates in the stores themselves. Is that right? Am I saying that correctly, by the way?
I think I might rephrase it in we design the software that the associates use to help our customers.
Yeah. Okay. So really, really good. So that's really good. And then you might even go even further, because I know don't they have those like little handsets or something that they can find stuff with? I feel like I see them carrying that stuff around. Am I right about that or no?
It could be anything. We have everything from wearable devices to dashboards and call centers.
Yeah, and so and then to me the next thing is to have something in your pocket about what I'm really excited about. So is there something that you guys are working on that you're really excited about that you can reveal on this call? I don't want you to unveil anything that's obviously secret or anything like that.
Sure, I can use a recent example that we released a couple months ago. Is we're now using natural language processing in our stores. So when you call a store, instead of sitting there listening to a number of options, you can actually just tell them what you want, and we'll take you directly to the department, which saves about 91 years of a customer's life.
Okay, so this is really fascinating, and so if I'm sitting here even if I'm just at a cocktail party chatting with you, I want to know all about this because you've described this in a way that's compelling, and to me, that's ultimately what an elevator speech is. And I get back to what you said in your initial comment. I know you're probably regretting actually go into the chat box at all. But just the idea of sort of simplifying it and making it the kind of thing that the average person can understand. So thank you for allowing me to pick on you in this way. I thought it was really, really interesting. So thank you so much. By the way, you've got a lot of people say, given some things. Stephanie says, my go-to as a software designer is I design software interfaces. The goal is to make them easier and more pleasant to use. Stephanie, could you unmute?
Sure.
So Stephanie, tell us, I'm not asking you to give me your elevator speech, but just where do you work?
I work at Code Metal, and I actually do, I'm the type of software designer that Sean manages. Not at the same company, of course, but.
I see. And so you, this is your actual elevator speech that you actually use. I design software interfaces. The goal is to make them easier and more pleasant to use.
Right.
And have you, I'm just curious, is that something that you took some time to actually like write it down and practice, or did you just do that just for us?
I arrived at that through a series of trying to explain what my job is and realizing it takes forever. And I arrived at that very simple explanation.
I think that this is ultimately what the goal is to sort of have an iterative process that ultimately we get it to a nice and simple thing. You know, my own journey, thank you so much, Stephanie, by the way, for your comment. My own journey was, when I first got into this, people would ask me, what do I do? And I said, well, I run a company that teaches people how to create presentations that are simple and persuasive, then get people to buy into ideas. And that was something that I spent a lot of time crafting and writing. And while I guess it's all true and it's easy to understand, it seems like too much of a mouthful now. And so when somebody ask me what I do, I said, I run a company that teaches people how to give speeches. And to me, that is, but it's been an iterative process, similar to what Stephanie has said, and it's all about just making it as simple as possible. That's the idea. It's just as simple. And so to me, my beef with a lot of these elevator pitches that you read, and you can go on the internet and you can you can see all of these things and these little formulas to do it. So often they sound so carefully crafted and written. It sounds like some marketing person, and nothing against marketing people, by the way, but some marketing person has written something that it's designed to go on a website somewhere. The problem is that it doesn't sound good coming out of your mouth. And so that is my beef with a lot of these things. We want it to be nice and simple. I want to call on my buddy Josh. Josh Peck is, I've known Josh is one of my oldest friends, actually.
I'm not that old.
What's that?
I'm not that old.
Well, you're older than me. Josh and I met, I believe, I don't know how many years ago it was, but on the first day that I showed up as a newspaper reporter, we sat next to each other in New Rochelle at the Standard Star at 92 North Avenue. I believe I'm getting that right. And so we've been buddies ever since. He actually just moved down here to Clarksville. Don't ask why he's found himself in Clarksville, Georgia. Nothing wrong with Clarksville, Georgia, but if you knew Josh, you'd be like, what are you doing in Clarksville, Georgia? Josh, Josh was kind enough to actually submit a video of his elevator speech. And so I'm going to play it for you without actually telling you what he does. And I actually think this is really good, and for some of the reasons we've already talked about. Let's see if hopefully this is gonna work here. I don't know, Josh, can you see yourself here? Good.
Yes.
You can all see it. All right, let's see if this actually plays well.
Hi, my name is Joshua Peck. I'm a former reporter, and I now do public relations and content creation for lawyers and all kinds of writing that helps them build their business.
All right. First of all, Josh, did that come through okay? Did y'all see it?
Yes.
So Josh, this is, first of all, I really like this elevator. I should tell everyone I really like this elevator speech. Carl gave a +1 to Josh. I think that means that's good, right, Carl? Is that what that means? +1? I'm not as woke as I should be. Sean said the same thing. So, yeah, so that +1 means good job, good job. Josh, I'm just curious. Here's what I like about it. It's just really, really clear. It makes you immediately understand what he does. Josh, I'm just curious. Is this something you spent time working on, or did you just sort of?
I blundered into it by getting it wrong, I would say, and trying to say too much. And when I realized that what I do is actually very simple, and I also think it's important to stress two things that are in there. One is that my background is working as a reporter, and I now make appeals to reporters so that people can connect with that. And the other thing is to acknowledge that I'm a specialist, and I do what I do primarily for a certain industry, and that's for the law.
So yeah, I'm curious. You started by saying that you were a journalist. I'm just curious. Why did you do it that way? Yeah, that's interesting to me.
Because that's what the lawyers call a bona fide. It means that you're a person in good standing when it comes to working with the press. And these days, the vast majority of people in public relations have no experience firsthand as journalists. And it's generally seen as a plus. And to those people who don't know it's a plus, it's easy to explain why speaking to reporters when you were one gives you credibility that you otherwise would not have.
Yeah. So really good. Well, so I thought it was really good. And that's what I liked. It was nice and clean and simple. And again, I hope most of you will take away from this call. To me, maybe the most important thing is that this coming up with a good elevator speech it's number one, it's somewhat contextual, but also it has to do with, to me, to have a good one, you have to sort of iterate. You have to sort of whittle it down till you get to the essence of it. Is sort of the most important thing, is to keep it nice and clean and simple. Is a really good approach. Let's see. I've already drafted a good start on my elevator pitch. That's what Monique has said. Let's see. Let's look at some other ones here. Some of you have sent in some other ones. I'm not sure if people are on the call or not. Steve Miller, are you there from Geotechnical Consultants? Steve, are you on the call? Not sure if you are or not. He sent in his elevator speech. How about my buddy Tim? Tim, are you there? Tim Talmadge. I don't know if Tim is here or not. Okay, well, these are all, I think a lot of you, if you have submitted your elevator speech to me, I will be sure to give you some feedback, some written feedback to it. The last thing I want to very briefly talk about is I want to spend a little bit of time just talking about, we're just about out of time, is just the delivery of it. And I do think that this is the kind of thing that is worth practicing. One of the things that I do, and that I've done with my elevator speech, but I do with all of our presentations, is I take a moment and I use my phone and I use the recording device and I practice saying it into the phone. And then I play it back so that I can hear it. This is a really important process. Oh, Tim is here. Tim, do you want to unmute?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. And I just want to, Tim,
Great.
by the way, is also a longtime friend, worked with when his days at Coca-Cola. Tim, why don't you tell everybody what you do?
Currently, I'm retired, but I still enjoy a lot of work. Let's see. The one I wrote, and I'm going to come back to a question you said earlier, which is, why did I do it? Actually, I did it because JD asked me to, and I thought, wow, this is a great opportunity to figure something out, because I don't get that opportunity very much. And I'm very much interested in all the feedback. So my pitch was, I've retired from full-time work, but very much welcome and enjoy short-term engagements facilitating groups of all sizes, in person or remotely, and coaching others to do likewise.
Yeah, so it sounds like what you're doing now is you're a professional facilitator. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so to me, I would just go right to that part. If somebody says, what do you do? Say, I'm a professional facilitator. What I do is I help people run their meetings well. Because I think that is what you do. And by the way, I know Tim from, having worked with Tim, if you're looking for a great professional facilitator, Tim is definitely one to do it. Tim was with the Coca-Cola Company for many years. is great at what he does. So to me, that let's just cut right to it. Let's get right to that part that says, hey, what I do is I'm a professional facilitator. I help people run great meetings, which I know he does.
Thank you. I love that.
Tim is fantastic, and so thank you so much, Tim, for submitting it and allowing me to call on you, just like old times, right?
Yes, very much so. Thanks.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time. Does anybody have any questions about anything? So let me end by recapping my key messages here. Number one, I talked about what is an elevator. Okay, so I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Akiki. Gosh, I'm sure I'm screwing up your.
No, it's a KK.
Okay, thank you, KK. KK, is this a real conversation that you just had with your daughter?
2 minutes ago.
That is so funny. Why don't you recount it for everyone?
She just walked in here with COVID. You know, she's doing lessons in her room. She came into my room. What are you doing? I'm on a conference. And she has a monitor. She's looking at everybody on here. I'm just learning how to answer the question you ask me all the time. Hey, what do you do?
That's funny. That's funny. So yeah, very, very good. Thank you for that. Diana says, what do you recommend? Would you recommend a joke on your pitch? You know, I'm really not a big fan of you telling lots of jokes in this context. I'm not saying that jokes aren't funny, and I love jokes, and I tell jokes. My beef with jokes is that all the good ones are offensive, are foul, or use foul language, and so to me, so many of the jokes are not that, or if they're capable of actually being used in a business context, are just kind of not very good. I love jokes, but all my favorite jokes are offensive, so I don't tell them in a business context. That to me what makes a good joke is that it can be a little bit edgy. Somebody just asked, we're almost out of time, but somebody just asked this question. Is there any management consultants who want to share what they do? Andy is a former student of mine. Andy, what do you do? Andy, you there still? Andy Nguyen?
I am. Sorry, I was on mute. I am a management consultant, so that's why I was asking.
And what exactly do you do for them? I mean, management consultant is one of these really broad topics. It can mean almost anything.
Exactly. That's why what do I normally do now is after 8 years being in consulting is I help our clients execute things. Right? I help them get things done, but I don't know if that's good enough these days. Where you're trying to explain and articulate your 10, 15 plus years of experience in IT and all this stuff.
Well, and so I think what I would just urge you to think about is maybe getting a little more specific. And so say, I'm a management consultant that helps people implement IT systems or something like that, if that's what the case is. But I would be a little more specific than just execute. That's what I would probably recommend.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're pretty much out of time. I always like to try and keep it to right at 30 minutes. Once again, what is an elevator speech? It's a verbal calling card that shows value. How do you build it? We've talked about that. And then to deliver it well, I do think it's worth practicing, recording yourself. I want to thank everybody for joining the call. I've really enjoyed it. I want to thank several of my friends, Josh in particular, who sent a video in of all things and let us watch. Holding himself up to scrutiny in that way is not an easy thing to do. So I appreciate that. Thank you all for joining. We really enjoy doing these calls. We'll do another one in a couple of weeks, and we'll see you. Have a great weekend. Thank you all.